Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness. You know, this was the last of the Tomb Raider games that was in the Core Designs timeline. It was supposed to be the start of a new trilogy of games. I mean, pretty much 1, 2, and 3 could be considered their own trilogy. Revelations was released because they were thinking of ending the series, and then that didn't fly. So they put in so they made Chronicles and started on this project. Now, this game is a mixed bag. It is praised for its story. And probably the music too. But it gets panned for its controls, and there were a lot of bugs in this game when it was shipped out. Now, the story was actually pretty good. I have to give it that. You see, it opens with Lara Croft on the run in Paris. She is considered the main suspect in one of the latest killings done by a entity known as the Monstrum. In fact, it gets these murders are known as the Monstrum killings. And so, and the latest victim was Werner von Croy. Now, there is a reason for this. Maybe a little retconning, I don't know. See, while last we saw Werner, he was trying to locate Laura in Egypt. It's shown through some cutscenes that Laura had a slight disagreement with him because she thought he left her there to die. Well, now she's on the run. So your first few levels are learning the mechanics of the game. Which is a bit of a race through the rooftops of Paris, trying to avoid being spotted by the police, and also uh, learning the mechanics like stealth, tightrope walking, uh, wire climbing, all that. I may be wrong on the tightrope walking, but these are all mechanics that are supposed to help Laura as she progresses in the game. It's also the first time that Laura has a grip meter, which is a detriment in my eyes because let's face it, she's losing out on, you know, some, of her trademark abilities. There's also certain things you have to do to improve your arm and leg strength. But there's also the stealth mode, which is a new mechanic entered into this franchise. Well, eventually Laura survives and ends up in the Parisian ghettos. And she's looking for individuals and information on what Werner was looking into, which is like the Ars Obscura or something like that. Now, here you have a little choice on how to progress in this, in getting at the person who may know something, a gentleman named Bouchard. And once you choose your path and all that, and work your way through the Parisian ghetto area, you eventually get access to him. And apparently, he's willing to help you in obtaining the items. In fact, he tells you where one might, where some information might be, and of course, it's in the Louvre. See, there's an archaeological dig site going on in the Louvre, so you have to make your way into the Louvre, avoiding guards, not setting off alarms. Yeah, easier said than done. And eventually making your way to the dig site. And once you get in at the dig site, of course, you have to get into the place. You have to avoid the guards, always hiding from the guards, hiding, 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 making your way deeper into the whole location. And eventually, you get to a point where you get into these ruins. These underground ruins, which has a lot of climbing. Oh, and some undead forces, because we need undead forces. And there's also a very themed area in this place. You get to this temple-like thing that's deep in in these ruins, where you come across an area known as the Hall of Seasons, where you have to open the correct door to open an area up, which has a puzzle related to some sort of the seasons for some reason. Honestly, this was a tricky part because certain rooms, well, one, you had to have exact jumps in this area. And add to it, there were areas in this where the game crashed on me a few times. And I don't know what caused it. I mean, there is a known bug in Revelations that if you're playing for a long time and you enter this one area, the game will crash. Don't know if we ever figured out how long the gameplay is and what causes it to crash. Well, we know the exact area where the crash happens. That's the thing. But once you get through all these tricky trials, and these aren't so bad when it comes to certain other areas, uh, you make your way through, and eventually you have to, once you activate all these areas, you then have to make your way to a boiler system that powers up another thing in this place. Which will let you get access to the area where where this item is that you need. Oh yeah, to get to it, you have to go through this hall of traps, which is where you end up going if you pick the wrong door to enter these trial areas. So once you get through all that, in these 4 different trials, and climb up, and I do mean up in climbs that really test the limits of the grip meter. You enter into this room where the fifth painting is. Apparently, all four prior ones have either been located or found or gotten into the hands of the bad guys. Well, guarding is this really, really nasty ghost. I mean, he can drain your health quick. And in order to grab the painting, you gotta actually stun this ghost. Because he'll change the position of the painting every time you go near it. Unless he's stunned. And of course, once you grab it, you get out of that room. And then return to the surface. Where the Louvre is now under siege by the bad guys. And add to it, there's another figure in there. One you come to know later as, I think it's Trent Easton or something like that. Definitely the first name's Trent. He was actually supposed to end up as a, quote, love interest in this proposed trilogy. Of course, you escape either without with the painting or without the painting. I can't remember. So Laura decides to head back to Von Croy's place to try and find out some more, which she does. But it seems there's already somebody there who wants to, quote, clean up the mess. A gentleman known as the cleaner. So Laura must now outrun his efforts. I mean, first off, if you take one wrong step, things blow up. If you manage to avoid causing any explosions, he'll come in and try and wipe you out. And then if you try and pursue, you got to pursue him carefully, or else you're going to get blown up. Oh, and of course the building's now starting on fire, so you're going to have to be extra careful and manage to wipe him out before you end up going to Prague, where the other known monstrum killings are. Of course, when you get there, you meet up with a journalist there, you get into the crime scene, and just as you're going to inspect the crime scene, there's Bouchard again. Apparently he was going to, turn on you and all that. He turned on you and all that. So as you go to investigate, after incapacitating him, you go back and find he's dead. Great. And you find out more information, and the reporter has let you know where this force of evil, this cabal, is headquartered. So you head in there. I mean, this looks at first like your typical run-of-the-mill mob operation. Yeah, there's some fancy little weapons there. But then when you enter into the deeper areas of it, you're finding a research facility that's working on some pretty freaky, messed up shit. Mutated plants, mutated animals, all with apparent DNA of Nephilim, as well as one known as the Sleeper is there. I mean, Laura causes some trouble when she shuts off the power, causing a nasty one to get loose. Now, these Nephilim can only be destroyed by certain things. At least the true and more pure Nephilim creatures. Laura doesn't have this item, but Trent does. So as Laura's going through the facility and dodging some of these dangerous things, as well as shooting guards as well, Laura eventually comes to a point where she enters like an airlock type thing, and Trent locks her in there. This is, of course, to, quote, protect her a bit, as he goes through the place and takes care of some of the more dangerous things, as well as this monster proto-Nephilim. Of course, Laura has also witnessed something too, where one figure, known as Boaz, has displeased our apparent main villain, Icard, or Icard, or Einhard, one of the names. Now, since she displeased him and didn't destroy the Proto Nephilim because, well, she doesn't have anything that can destroy it, but he doesn't want to hear this. Uh, he kills her. Well, doesn't kill her. He shoves her into something that will turn her into a giant ass monstrosity that is a pain in the ass to fight. Well, after Trent takes care of the Proto Nephilim, and then frees Laura, and he's got these blades that can injure these things. And this section, he's going through what looks like a sanitarium. This area is buggy as well. I mean, there were a few times where I entered an area and all of a sudden there's nothing but black floor or black areas. Like there's supposed to be something here, but it didn't load in. So I had to redo some of that. But after he gets through and takes care of the Pro Nephilim and opens the little airlock that Laura's in again, they come to an agreement. So she goes down to another area, which is underwater, which to do this, Laura must go through another part of the facility that has a lot of aquatic and mutated aquatic things, and in order to get past the one, apparently you got to feed it. Yeah, it likes chum. So we make an order to the chum, but no, we didn't order it from the chum. But we get a big bucket and fill it with chum and drop it into the water, and it just stays there getting chum. Get into this other facility, this other site, where there are ancient things and an ancient alchemical lab. And lo and behold, once you get the item there that you need there, which I think is either a final painting or something, I forget. Well, when you get out of there, Eckert and his henchmen have captured Trent. And Laura, quote, agrees to a trade. Not surprising. But what ends up happening is this. Of course, he's not going to let them leave alive. Trent escapes. Well, Trent helps Laura escape the pit and then fights the mutated Boaz. Like I said, this fight is a bitch and a half. This is like the hardest match in the game. Not the hardest thing in the damn game, though. Where you have to destroy the whole, shoot her down, shoot her enough to she starts opening up these sacks on her or whatever on her bug form, and then blast them before successfully for quote successfully defeating her. Her second form slightly is easier than the first. Once that's done, Trent is apparently very wounded. Meanwhile, Laura is heading trailing Eckert to his inner sanctum. This is simple enough. because there's two hallways. You got to do one to build up her strength, and if you don't do it, apparently you get a mag boost. So you can perform one hell of a long jump. Here's the trick. Once you pull the lever at the start of this hallway where you got to do 3 sprint jumps, and it took me a while to get that down, you got to successfully do these 3 jumps in succession. You have very little room for error because when you pull that lever, you open a timed gate. So even if you goof up maybe once, you might as well go back to the start and do it again. That's how much of a bitch this thing is. This has got to be one of the most aggravating sections in the game. Honestly, I think they should have given you a little bit more leeway time. After that, you get into Eckert's final lab. Work your way through a little puzzle in there while avoiding these undead knights or wiping them out, which you're not going to have enough ammo to. You'll have enough, maybe have enough ammo, but then you have the fight against Eckert in the main room where the sleeper is. After what is probably one of the easier of boss battles, probably the easiest of boss battles in this game, when you're successful at that, then Eckert's minion reveals he's really a Nephilim. He's doing the whole, hey, this is a Nephilim. We're doing the same thing Natla wanted to do. Except we got it all together. So, once you get through all that, well, to defeat him, you must damage the sleeper. You can do nothing to hurt this fool, except damage the sleeper, which means you have to get up there to it. It's just a race to get up there before you die. It ends with Laura successful. And as she comes out of the lab, she finds Trent's weapon. And something about it gives her the opinion that he's not dead. He's still alive. And no doubt was meant to be found in the next part of the trilogy, and we would learn more about his background as he's from apparently the last of a long order that has been fighting to eliminate the Nephilim, because apparently they're not good for humanity. But that's where it ended. This had to be one of the most frustrating Tomb Raider games I ever played. And while I stood for a long time not saying I wouldn't play it, I still played it. Paying less than $1 for it on GOG, maybe that was still a little too much. Like I said, it's a great story. Had so much potential. Does it deserve to have more done with it? Of course. Well, I don't know. Some people would like to see it remade. You got to tear this down from. I mean, A complete remake? Possibly. Personally, I think it's. I played it. If you are a die-hard Tomb Raider fan or want to experience every game in the Tomb Raider franchise, this is. Yeah, you want to get it and play it. After that, forget about it. Like I said, story was a great idea for a story. So much more could have been done with it. It needed more time. Well, let's put it this way, it just needed more time to cook. It was rushed out. They didn't properly beta test it. And remember, this came out at a time before digital, and the home platforms didn't necessarily have the capability of downloading patches. But still, I'd say only play this if you really want to experience every Tomb Raider game out there. I personally think a better job was done with the Game Boy entry, or the Game Boy games of Tomb Raider. That should tell you how much I would rank this one. But I endured it. And that's all I'm going to say about Tomb Raider Angel of Darkness. And, well, next time around I'll be talking about that first timeline as a whole, which also includes 3 books that were supposed to be a bridge between when Laura escaped under the pyramid, which is somewhat hinted at the end of Chronicles, and Angel of Darkness. Thanks for listening if you have listened all this time, and bye all.